Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Skyline College Resume Writing webinar. My name is Jana Adams, and I work on the CalTAP team, which is the California Transition Assistance Program team here at Calvet. I'm going to tell you all about what CalTAP does as a team and the resources and benefits that we can help you out with a little bit later today. But I do want to welcome everybody to this webinar. Before we get started with all the information you guys are about to hear today, I want to go through just a couple quick housekeeping items. If for any reason you happen to have to leave the webinar, you get kicked off for some reason, just use that same link that you used to jump on the webinar. Just use it again and you'll jump right on in. We're going to have a lot of speakers today giving you guys, not a lot of speakers, a few speakers giving you guys a lot of really great information. And if you guys have questions along the way, we definitely encourage you guys to participate and ask those questions. Chances are, if you have a question, someone else on here is going to have that same one. So there is a Q&A tab that you guys can probably see on your control bar. We ask that you utilize the Q&A tab for any questions that you may have. And I have my colleague Cherie here with me. She's going to be filtering through those questions, and if she can answer them herself, she'll definitely answer them. If not, at the end of each speaker's individual presentation, they'll be able to answer those questions for you. And then after we get done with the whole presentation, if there are more questions or maybe something you thought of a little bit later, we'll go through the questions at that time. Now, there is a chat function tab as well, and we actually have you guys disabled from being able to use that, and that's because Cherie, my colleague, is going to be putting lots of really great links to different web pages and lots of really great information about some of the benefits that we're all talking about. So she'll go ahead and do that for you. And like I said, if you have any questions along the way, put them in the Q&A tab, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and let Chris come on and talk about lots of really great things from Department of Veterans Affairs. So whenever you're ready, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you for that warm welcome. Can you hear and see me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Fantastic. Well, happy Tuesday, everyone. I don't know if you celebrate Taco Tuesday, but for me, just took a few minutes to walk outside and enjoy this beautiful sunshine. So just really warms my heart when the sun is out. We got so much great rain in California, but that died down, so that's amazing. So today, again, my name is Chris Engel. I want to share a little bit about what it means to actually fight your way into the government. I myself am an Army veteran of 8 years. I am currently the section chief for the director's office in the Oakland Regional VA office in downtown Oakland, California. I'm a military spouse. My wife is currently serving in the California National Guard, and I am a mother of 4. For me, the journey to where I'm at today was a lot of jumping over some obstacles and overcoming some gaps that were in the federal workforce when I attained my first position. I just wanted to really reach out to veterans who may go through some of those same hurdles so they can understand that, hey, you're not alone, we're in this together, and we have a strong workforce because of individuals like you who have that great background from your service with the military, and you have so much to offer to the federal workforce. All right, next slide, please. So first, I want to talk about the PACT Act. I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but the PACT Act is a new law that expands VA healthcare and benefits for veterans who are exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. Of course, with that, whenever we have a new law that expands benefits to veterans, we can expect an influx of claims to the Department of Veterans Affairs. If we get an influx of claims, that means an increased workload. And of course, that means we need to hire more individuals to fill some of these vacancies. I will tell you, for FY22, so for 2022, we hired right over 7,000 employees just for VBA, Department of Veterans Benefit Affairs. This year for FY23, by September of 2023, we are looking to hire over 9,000 employees. Of course, what better applicant pool than to look at our own veteran, military spouse, and any other individuals with disabilities like Schedule A to fill those vacancies and help us in meeting our expectations for processing these claims. So right now, currently on USA Jobs, we have what's called a DHA or Direct Hiring Authority job announcements. And we're going to go more into that here in a little bit. But I want to share with you all right at the front that there are so many positions available just for the Oakland Regional Office, which is expanded from the Oregon border down to Fresno, California. We have over 50 vacancies just in our office alone. And if you go to the next slide, I'll give you a little bit more insight on what that looks like nationwide. So right now, there are 56 regional offices across the nation, and there are 60 different locations, plus some of our offices are virtual as well, looking to fill vacancies just like the Oakland Regional offices is. So for us, we have over 50. I would say the average for each regional office at each location across the nation has over 100 vacancies that we are being directed to fill prior to the end of September of this year. So this is a great time if you were looking to get your foot in the door with the government. It is a great time. And of course, I may be a little biased because I'm a veteran and I work for the VA, but really this presentation and this training will support you in any agency or any government that you're looking to be employed with. Next slide, please. And I apologize, these allergies are kicking my butt. So if I pause and cough, please don't take offense to it. All right, so first up, what is USA Jobs? So USA Jobs is the most utilized platform or system, if you will, that most agencies post their positions at. I will tell you, like myself, I'm a section chief. I'm also an HR supervisor. A lot of the positions we are in urgent need to fill. So we're sharing them on Facebook, LinkedIn, career fairs such as this. And again, we'll talk about how you can get your foot in the door without using USA Jobs, but just for your situational awareness, if you're looking to go to other agencies across the nation or even overseas, USA Jobs is the one-stop shop that most agencies use to post their positions on. So the time requirement for each announcement that's posted on USA Jobs will vary. So for example, it may be that we post a position that we need to fill really quickly and have a quick turnaround for 3 to 5 business days, where other positions may be, I just lost, don't know if y'all can still see me, but I just lost connection. Are you still there, Jana?
Yeah, we can still hear you and see you.
Oh,
You're good.
Oh goodness,
Keep
so
going.
sorry. All right, awesome. All right, I'll just keep going. I trust that y'all can still see me. So USA, again, back to the time frame. So 3 to 5 business days for some more urgent positions. And then I like to, point out that you'll see some where it says open-ended. And what that means is we are needing a continuous pool of applicants. So we might list the positions for 2 weeks or anything up to as much as 3 months, have the same job announcement. Don't let that deter you from applying, which is why I like to point that out, because sometimes what that means is that we are constantly checking USA Jobs and the back end, which is USA Staffing, to see how many applicants are applying for that position and constantly pulling those applicants for selection and review. Next slide, please. Awesome. So the first step really to apply for any job on USA Jobs is to create the profile. And I'll tell you why. USA Jobs kind of gets a bad rap. And I know when I first started applying back in 2016, I felt like it was super overwhelming, but really it's set up to be user-friendly once you can kind of work through some of those hurdles. One of my recommendations is to first create a USA Jobs profile and literally pour yourself a cup of coffee. If it's after 5 o'clock somewhere and you're not at work, pour yourself a glass of wine. Take your time and literally go through every single part of that profile. Really fill in all the information. When it asks you to upload documents, take your time, make sure you're reading the document description, and of course, uploading the correct document. And the reason is, and I'll go ahead and have you go to the next slide there, Jana, is it ties everything into your profile, and that is exactly what individuals like myself, hiring managers, and HR specialists are going to view. So you really want to make sure there's no spelling errors, or you didn't accidentally upload a picture of your puppy instead of your DD-214. You know, mistakes happen, right? But that may be what sets you apart from another applicant as well. So really taking your time to go through that and building your profile is so crucial. So within your profile, the first tab of your profile is the home section. In the home section, you will be able to view all applications that you've applied for and their status. A status can be in progress, received, referred, not selected, selected, or canceled. You will also be able to view your saved jobs. So for example, you can look at a job and then be like, I'm gonna think about that, come back to that later, and just save it and then come back and see if you want to apply for that or not. You can also create a search with a title and location and set your notifications to notify you when you have a position fall within that saved search, and it'll notify you daily, weekly, or monthly through your email or text messages. Quick little caveat, when I was actively really pursuing getting a position within the federal government, I had mine set to daily. If you're kind of in that transition phase where you're not quite ready to maybe apply for that many positions, you can always set it to weekly or monthly. So when you're creating a profile, it is just super important, and I can't state this enough, really take the time. There are 11 tabs. You want to go through every single one and answer all the questions that pertain to you and make sure that you fill out your profile completely. I like to compare it to, I might be aging myself here, but you know, it's okay. My oldest son just turned 15 this week, so I'm like, whoo. So back in the day, we had MySpace, which was before Facebook, right? And in MySpace, I remember taking the time to like fill it out, make sure my pictures were all good, make sure my music was linked to my background, everything was all squared away. So really take that same type of motivation and commitment to making sure your profile is set up. Next tab, please. All right, so the first up is your contact tab. So you want to complete this by adding your address. Some individuals would not prefer to add their home address, totally fine. PO box is also totally acceptable. Email, always professional. And for real, I don't want to see, you know, hot bikini body at hotmail.com. I don't even know if Hotmail is still out there, but you would be surprised how many emails we see that are not professional. And I will tell you, as a supervisor and an HR manager, when I see that, I'm like, oh man, I just don't know if I want to consider that person based off of the unprofessional email address. So a good rule of thumb is just like the military, right? It was Angle Christina at army.gov, right? So just whatever that is, you know, christina.angle@va.gov. Your name is a safe spot to go for your email, christina.angle@gmail.com. Works great. And then please make sure that when you're setting up your voicemail, it's always professional. You know, it used to be popular back in the day to have music and some funny little jokes on your voicemail. It really isn't the professional standard that we are looking for with the government nowadays. So again, using the pre-populated voicemail is always a safe option, or just saying something yourself very professional, like, hello, you've reached Chris Angle. I will get back with you as soon as I can. Please leave a clear message, and leave it at that. Citizenship, you must annotate your citizenship status. Hiring path, claim every single hiring path that you can. And here's why. You're a veteran, you're a student, you're a military spouse, you're an individual with disabilities under Schedule A. You claim all of those hiring paths. And on the other end, when it's reviewed by the HR manager or the hiring manager, your name is going to show up on several certificates instead of just one. So if you only apply as a public citizen, your name is only on one certificate of eligible applicants. If you apply on public citizen, veteran, military spouse, well, then your name will show up on 3. And the reason that's important is a hiring manager, they have the right to choose, oh, I'm just going to use one certificate, or I'm just going to use the veteran certificate. That's completely within their right to do. So you want to make sure that your name is visible and getting showed up on as many certificates as possible. Federal experience, if you have held a federal position in the past, non-military, make sure you add that into your profile. And of course, make sure you upload your last SF50. And here's a little foot stomp for you all. add your last SF50 that shows a promotion. So if you've been in the federal government before, you're probably familiar with an SF50, very similar to the military. You get an SF50 every time there's any kind of personnel action completed on your behalf, and that's uploaded into your federal file. So just make sure that you're only adding your very last one that showed a promotion, which would be a career ladder promotion or maybe a within grade step increase. Military experience. If you have served in the military, add your service dates and make sure, of course, that they are accurate and they match your DD-214. So we bring this up because sometimes we'll see that an individual will add their military service, but the dates will maybe be a month or day or even a year off from what they put in on their DD-214. So just make sure that your DD-214 and what you're putting into your profile match. Work experience, you want to add everything that is relevant to the positions that you will be applying for. Education, add all of your education experience, including degrees and certificates. You never know when just one additional degree or one additional training or certificate that you add sets you apart from someone else. So add it all. This is the government. We want to know everything. Add it all. Excuse me. Demographics, they're not required, but we definitely recommend that you add them. In languages, if you're fluent in multiple languages, or even if you're fluent in just one language, you want to add that language to your profile and, of course, document that you read, write, and speak it. Organizations, add all organizations that you affiliate yourself with, and references. I state that they're strongly recommended, but actually, as of this past year, it's an OPM requirement to add 3 professional references, and we have to call them before we give you an official job offer. So just beat us to the punch of asking for them and add them to your USA Jobs profile. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Gotta love California allergies. So you can save up to 5 resumes on USA Jobs. And you're probably like, why would I want to have 5 resumes? Well, maybe you did IT in the military, but you're thinking about going into HR. And then you're also like, but I'm also open to finance. 3 very different career fields. So I would recommend you create 3 different types of resumes and write them for that career or for that position. So you may want to have 5 different resumes that you can quickly just pull from. They're already created, and then apply for the positions as they come to you through your saved search. There are a few different ideas of documents you can add to store on USA Jobs. You can store up to 10. I recommend your latest DD-214, veteran preference letter, SF50, degrees, certifications, items like that. And then, of course, I can't stress this enough, definitely make sure that they are kept up to date, because it's really easy for us to be like, oh, finished a degree, we're super excited, we're out celebrating, we don't think to add it to USA Jobs. Little foot stomp, add it to USA Jobs. Again, it can be that one thing that sets you apart from another applicant. Next slide, please. So the Preferences tab allows you to set specific preferences that you would prefer, such as how much are you willing to travel? 25% above, 50% above, lots of travel, appointment type, permanent or temporary, and then, of course, what kind of schedule would you like? Full-time, part-time, telework, items like that. The reason it's really nice when applicants, again, take the time to fill out their entire profile, I can't state that enough, is it allows me as the hiring manager to quickly look at all these different sections that are going to populate on their resume from their profile and say, oh, this individual is willing to travel. This individual wants telework. They'd be best for this position. And it just allows for a much faster review of your resume and your application for the positions that you're applying for. Next slide, please. Appreciate all your patience with my cough, sorry. And then, you know, USA Jobs, I know it can be kind of overwhelming and confusing as most systems these days. That technical gap for me has been fun to jump over. But it really does have such amazing search functions that are built right into it that can really support you in looking for that perfect opportunity. So if you'll see on the screen right here across the top, Keywords can include the position title you are looking for and location by the city or state you prefer to work in. And then if you notice the flag near the top of the page where you can select Save this search, or if the search is already saved, you can select Edit Save Search. And on the right side of the screen there, you can set up your own filters for your searches. So this can narrow down exactly the kind of job that you are looking for. It can speed up your searching and applying process. And then of course, remember that your saved searches, those can be set to notify you daily, weekly, or monthly. Now I'm going to share something with you that's kind of personal. So, again, I was deployed to Iraq in 2016. I was gone for a year, and I really wanted to make sure that I could come back and transition into my military reserve status off of active duty and walk into a federal position. That was my goal. That was the intention that I set while I was deployed, to apply for as many federal positions as possible. And as a mother of 3 at the time, I really just didn't want to have to deploy again after that experience. So I really wanted to make sure that I locked in a federal position. I will tell you, working crazy hours, we were part of Operation Inherit Resolve, and I would, get back to the barracks, and I'd get on my computer. I think I had an iPad, and just log on to USA Jobs, and I would apply every single night to any position that fell within my saved search. In a 9-month time frame, I applied for 75 positions. No joke, 75 different positions. I only had 3 agencies contact me for an interview. So I conducted 3 different interviews while I was deployed, and then I was finally offered a position with Department of Interior as a GS-9 at the time. Prior to that, I was taking an internship with Department of Defense as a GS-7. So within less than 5 years, I started my career with Department of Defense as a GS-7, and then worked my way up to Department of Veterans Affairs. In less than 5 years, I went from a GS-7 to a GS-13. It was not easy. It was a lot of applying, and it was a ton of updating my resume. But I heard it best from someone. A good friend of mine said, your resume, even the very first paragraph of your resume, is how you're introducing yourself to the hiring manager. It's the first thing they read about you, right? So really taking the time to making sure that you care so much about yourself and so much about your career and everything that you have to offer, right for you. Of course, right for the position, but right and say, yes, like this is what I have to offer, and this is why I'm the best fit for this position, and really take that seriously. And again, I can't stress that enough. So let's get to it. Let's get to the resume part. Next slide, please. It's kind of amazing. I've never had someone control my slides, so thank you. This is amazing. All right, so let's start with how to build your resume. I was one of those people that I uploaded my civilian resume, my little 1-pager, it was probably like half a page at the time, to USA Jobs, until a good friend of mine told me, hey, you're going to want to use the USA Jobs resume builder. So now I want to share with each of you, you definitely want to use the USA Jobs resume builder. But before we look at that, let's look at the difference between federal and civilian. So of course, I was one of those individuals that had a 1-pager. Next slide, please. So first, it's important for you to really understand the difference between federal and civilian. Think of it this way. Federal, they want to know everything about you. When you join the military, you probably spent like 3 to 4 days at MEPS, and they were asking all these questions. You went through all these different types of interviews. Same thing, but this time you're putting it all on paper. Next, please. All right, so for your federal resume, you really want to make sure that you have added everything: military and civilian experience, education, references, all of it laid out for that hiring manager to take a look at it. And if you look at this next option, next please, you can see that for a civilian resume, I used to write veteran resumes for San Francisco Giants, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google. And it always blew my mind how they only wanted a 1-pager. It was like, hey, we just really want like a quick elevator pitch of what that person has to offer. And it kind of blows my mind, but hey, that is what the civilian workforce is looking for. And that's the difference. So where the civilian workforce may want a one-pager with your basic information, federal agencies, I like to say you should have it no less than 6 pages, but really a 10-page detailed resume is really what the government is looking for at this point. Next slide, please. So when you're applying for positions on USA Jobs, of course, you have the option to upload your own resume that you've built, and I wouldn't knock anyone's resume template. However, some agencies, I know Department of Interior does this, for example, will only look at resumes that are written using the USA Jobs resume builder. And for that reason, you're up against a computer system. USA Jobs feeds the resumes into USA Staffing, and then it may go to a live person, or it may be screened by a computer system looking for keywords that you put in your resume. And here's the kicker: even if you've done everything right and you built your profile and you've set all your preferences correctly, your hiring paths, you're a veteran, all of that, if it doesn't find those keywords in your resume, it'll kick it out of the system and you will not be found eligible for the position. So if you use the USA Jobs resume builder, you have a better chance of actually making it to a live person to review your resume. And here's the best part: the USA Jobs resume builder pulls everything from the profile that you spent so much time while you were drinking your coffee or having a glass of wine to build, and it pulls all that information and it plugs it into a nice, neat format that the hiring manager finds easier to read and to review all of your qualifications. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first part of your resume, and that does it in steps, super easy to fill out, is of course your contact information. Now you would think that applicants would always add their email and phone number and their contact information, like maybe their LinkedIn, but we actually have received resumes recently, because we're in this mass hiring right now, where they forget to add the email, or they mistype their phone number, or their email is missing a letter. It's so important to take your time and really making sure that you type out your correct phone number, your correct email, so we can get a hold of you, so we can reach out to you for an interview or even an offer. So it's just really important that you take the time to fill in all of that correctly. And then for your name, of course, you can add a preference of Mr., Miss, Mrs. Don't add your military rank. I know it's super important, but I will give you the perspective, and I like to call this the Hollywood military perspective, right? So I have an HR staff member that works for me too, actually, that their only background or knowledge of the military is through what they've seen from Hollywood. Top Gun, great movie if you haven't seen it, but that may be the only thing that they have seen as far as their military experience or their knowledge of the military. So when they see a resume that says SGM, Angle Chris, right? They're going to be like, hey, Chris, this applicant had a typo. It says SGM. I will be like, oh, they meant Sergeant Major. But of course, they're not going to see that. They're not going to understand that. Or SFC, right? So yes, your rank is super important that you got out of the military service with, or if you're still serving in the Guard or Reserve, but you don't need to add it to your resume for contact information. And then, of course, your address will again be added to your profile or to your resume. And if you've already added all this information to your profile, it's going to feed all right in and be very smooth. One thing I do recommend is that you take the time to review each tab of your resume as you're going through the building process to make sure that the information transferred correctly from your profile into your resume. Of course, we know systems, still have errors these days, so just making sure that everything transfers correctly. Next tab, please. All right, so your work experience, like we stated, should go back as far as 10 years if possible. Again, don't worry if you don't have 10 years of experience, if you're getting out of the military, after 2 or 4 years, and the last job you had before that was in high school. Think about volunteer work. Think about anything else outside of a typical job that you can add in that may relate to the position that you are applying for. So what do I mean by that? If you've been working as an operations manager for the last 10 years, and you're going to add that for an operations type position that you're applying for with the government, there's no need to add a barista position that you may have held 15 years ago. But if you're applying for an operations manager position and you have 4 years in the military and before that you were in high school, however, you volunteered at your parents' nonprofit running the logistical setup for different events, you may want to add that volunteer work so you can get closer to that 10 years of work experience. A couple little bullet points. Do not use bullet format when writing your job description or duties. The duties should always be described and listed in an organized paragraph format. It just makes it easier for the hiring manager to read. And we actually just don't like to see bullets, and that's across of all agencies. When writing your job description, it is incredibly important that you bring out every important detail about your duties that you've held. The reviewer, myself, we want the facts. We want to know what you did, how many times, what was the outcome, and how did you leave that position better than how you found it? So for example, I developed an Excel spreadsheet, tracked over 100 personnel actions. The tracker was implemented in 5 different departments. I was recognized by the CEO for the efficiency of this report. Talk about what you came into, what you did, and how you left it better than what you found it. And of course, write for the position and for the job that you are applying for. So if you're applying for a job in HR, if you're applying for a job in IT, take time, read the entire position description, and then look at your own experience and write for the position. Don't copy and paste it. We see that too. So don't copy and paste the position description, but definitely look at the wording, look at what the position description describes, and see what you've done that correlates to that same type of position. Always, always, always include the number of hours per week that you worked in that position, paid or non-paid. So a job or volunteer work, always include the hours. If you don't include the hours, we cannot count the experience. So if it was 15, 20, 40, 30, always include all of the hours that you worked. And then I like to recommend that you include your salary, especially if it shows career progression and growth. If you start making $20,000 a year, and then we'll see on your resume the next year you made 40,000 and up from there, it shows that growth and it shows that advancement. So it really looks good on your resume. Next slide, please. So this is one of my favorite parts of the presentation and the training today. And I want y'all to know it comes from the bottom of my heart. I care so much about veterans and military spouses and dependents. So I say this with a lot of love and a lot of empathy. Being a veteran, it's not what sets you apart from everyone else applying. You are what sets you apart. So being a veteran is important to yourself, your spouse, your kids, your family, your parents, everyone, right? But to a hiring manager, you're just one more applicant that we're reviewing. And at the end of the day, we want to know if you can do the job. You can do the job because you have the skills that we need for that position. So you are what sets you apart. Why is this so important? Because a lot of times we see veterans and military spouses, but primarily veterans, write their resume using only military lingo. And we go back to that Hollywood perception of the military. They're not going to quite know what that looks like. So I'm going to give you an example. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Perfect. So military verbiage. So I'm just going to read this here for a moment. Retired Sergeant Major, United States Army veteran with over 20 years of experience, proficient at maintaining soldier records, improved passing APFT for over 20 soldiers, fostered an environment that promoted growth and development, always maintained unit readiness for missions and mobilization, improved physical fitness standards of the unit by 90%. Outstanding. Someone's getting a really good NCOER and probably an award. I know that because I used to work in S1 in the Army, so I know exactly what this is written for. But my employee, who her only military experience is that Top Gun movie that just came out, she's going to be like, what's an APFT? Chris, fostered an environment that promoted soldier growth? What does that really mean? I'm going to show you what that means. Next slide, please. So let's translate that. How would that look writing that as a civilian? That's amazing experience that retired sergeant major has. He has so much to offer for any position. But let's take a look at how he or she would write for a position that they are applying for. So I'm going to read this here for a moment. Professional, operations manager with over 20 years of experience, proficient in maintaining employee records containing sensitive information, fostered an environment that promoted employee growth and development, maintained department readiness in order to complete projects and reach the objective of the company, held employees to company standards and policies by leading by example and improving employee morale and well-being, improved department physical readiness requirements for employees by implementing a physical fitness workout plan that resulted in 100% accountability. So taking it to that level and adding that much detail and then changing the military verbiage to the civilian verbiage so that way anyone who works in HR, anyone who works in that department for that position that the veteran is applying for can read that and understand what sets the applicant apart. Remember, you are what sets you apart. You being a veteran is part of your history, and it is why you are this incredible human being that has so much to offer for these positions that you are applying for. But again, you are what sets you apart, not your veteran status. Next slide, please. So the one thing that every branch of the military is famous for, and we all got to love it, is training, training, and probably more training. And the federal government does the same thing. We still attend a lot of training. There's even probably training that you received that you probably don't even remember you received it because you were told to be at a place at the right time in the right uniform and you did it. Well, here's the great news. Add it all. Degrees, I recommend that you add every single degree you have. You don't have to annotate your GPA. If it's a 3.75 or higher, I recommend going ahead and adding that. Certifications, any kind of military certification that you have from inside the military or external, add it. It really, really shows that you care about your growth and your development towards your career. Training, if you've given a training, especially, make sure and add that certification and just add the verification that you have been a trainer or you're certified in a certain type of training. And then of course, testing. I know with the military as well, you might have a food handler's card, a postman carry card, or to carry mail, anything like that, any kind of certifications, add that into your USA Jobs documents tab. And again, even if, this is a little bit different from the experience, but even if the training or certification that you have doesn't directly apply to the position that you are applying for, it really can set you apart from other applicants. And it can show, again, that you care about what you have to offer, so much so that you're going out and getting additional training and certifications that could be an asset to that organization. Next slide, please. So one of my favorite sections of the resume builder for USA Jobs is adding your affiliations. So for example, if you're a part of a nonprofit or a church, or maybe even like Human Resources Command or different affiliations out there, different boards, if you're on a board, you want to add that. And I'll tell you why. It shows that you care about your community. It shows that you care about the environment and you care enough to give back and be part of a team. Right now in the government, when you go through an interview, you're going to see a lot of questions about emotional intelligence. You're going to see a lot of questions about why can you make us better? What do you have to offer? If you put that in your resume, it shows that you do care and it shows that you have thought outside the box and you do have a lot to offer. Next slide, please. So briefly at the beginning, we talked about volunteer work, and this is especially crucial for military spouses. If you have been following your spouse from duty station to duty station, and maybe you don't have as much work experience as you would like or that you've been able to have, totally fine. If you've volunteered at the FRG, volunteered at childcare, volunteered at school, at churches, nonprofit, yellow ribbon, any of those functions on a military base, add it to your resume, add the amount of hours. You never know when just a little bit more information on the volunteer work that you've done can tie into that position. And it goes back to reading that job description and seeing how it correlates to some volunteer work that you have in the past and having it where it sets you apart from other applicants. Another great one is sponsorship. I know when I got to my first duty station, we were required to have a sponsor. So if you were sponsoring other service members, soldiers, Marines, airmen, it might be an opportunity for you to add that as well. It shows that teamwork and that good leadership skills. Next slide, please. References. So like I said in the beginning, you know, a lot of applicants don't like to add references, and I get it. They're now a requirement. We have to call 3, and we have to get a hold of 3 references before we give any applicant an official job offer. Here's why I'm smiling. A lot of the references that we call, the individual will say something like, who? Chris? I haven't talked to her in like 20 years. What's she up to nowadays? Honestly, I don't care if you haven't talked to the reference in 20 years, but let them know that we're going to be calling them, and let them know what position you are applying for, so that way they can give you a good professional reference. And that's just my main recommendation, because again, they're speaking on your behalf. Excuse me, they're speaking on your behalf, and you really want to make sure that they are talking the best about you, and they're talking on your character, your work ethic, and really sharing what it is that you have to offer for this position. Next slide, please. Again, excuse me, sorry about that. I love these allergies. So I wanted to share a little bit into the insight of interviewing. So after you have submitted your resume, uploaded all your documents to the positions that you're applying for, there are some behavioral type interview questions that you may find yourself being asked by the interviewer. And really that's because they're wanting to get to know what it is that that person has to offer, if they're going to be a good team player, and if they're going to be a good fit for that team. So they may say something like, tell me about your experience. What'd you learn? How did you make it better? How did you leave that situation? Tell me about a time you had a conflict with someone. What'd you do? Did you lash out? Did you respond negatively? And then did you learn from that? What does emotional intelligence mean to you? How can you be part of a team? How have you learned to respond in a way that leaves the other individuals understanding that you understand them, and that you know them for who they are, and that you're not just lashing out or coming in aggressively to a situation? Again, sorry. It might be where you share an experience where you did lash out, and then you talk to the hiring manager about how you learned from that experience, and the next time you were placed in that situation, you chose a different approach. Don't be afraid to share that. That shows growth, and that shows commitment to yourself as a leader and what you have to offer for that position. Couple reminders: send a thank you note. If you're doing the interview on camera, be ready, or virtually, be ready to go on camera. Wear solid colors. If it's in person, no smoking or intense perfume. Relate, connect with your interviewer, find some common ground, share a little bit of personable things about yourself, connect with them, ask questions, take time to respond, and then ask questions about the position. Ask them why they have chosen to work for that agency. Next slide, please. All right, so USA Jobs has all the jobs. Your USA Jobs profile, take the time to fill it out. Do it tonight. If you're serious about applying for a job in the government, set aside a good couple hours, maybe more, and take the time to fill out every single part of that profile. Your resume, that's your golden ticket. That's your expanded elevator speech. And that is what their first impression is going to be about you and what it is that you have to offer for that position. So take your time to fill it out. And then your interview, set yourself up to win. Practice with your kids, practice with your spouse, practice with other students. Be like, hey, throw some hard questions at me, and really see how you respond, and then work on fine-tuning those skills. Next slide, please. All right, so, you know, I want to just leave you all with this. I served for 8 years. My father served for 23. My grandfather served for over 20. He was in World War II in Vietnam. And, this is just an honor to be here. It's an honor to be here with you all and share my experience and share some of these resources and tools that are available for you. So if you ever need anything, I'm on LinkedIn. You should have my cell phone number and my email. Feel free to reach out to me. I have an individual on my team, one of my employees. His sole role is to connect with veterans and military spouses, help them with their resume, and then refer them to different positions that we have open across the nation. So don't hesitate to reach out, ask any questions that you may have. But again, thank you for having me today, and thanks for putting up with my allergy cough. And I hope that I wish you all the best of luck in your career. I'll give it back to you, Jana.
Oh my gosh, Chris, that was amazing. Thank you so much for all that great information. You guys, I'm sure you took lots of things, but one thing she said was kind of closer to the beginning that I really got to me was a lot of this information that she just gave you can be used for anywhere. So, such great information, great tips. So appreciated. I'm going to bring my colleague Cherie on. There was a couple questions that came up, so she's going to go ahead and ask them. And then if you want to take a shot at them, that'd be great.
Hey, Jana, I can't hear Cherie.
Oh, here, how about now? Maybe. Is that better? Oh,
No, I can't hear her. She sounds really faint.
okay, I'll ask it, no problem. So the question states salary as active military. And that's all it said.
So adding your salary as active military?
Maybe, yes.
Okay, yeah. So to answer that question, if you have your salary listed, so for example, if it's broken down, say you're an E5 stationed in Fairfield, California, and then you go off of what the monthly is, and then just times it by 12 and add your annual salary for that position. And then say the next year you went up to E6, E7, and so on from there. You want to then add each one to show that growth and show that career advancement on your resume. Hope I answered that.
Got it. Okay. Should I add HOA involvement into my resume?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I haven't even heard that example before. That is amazing. I'm part of our HOA board here. Yes, 100%.
Very cool. And it looks like someone just responded with thank you for clarifying. So awesome on that. Thanks, Chris. Okay. And yes, like she said, absolutely. I assume that's a volunteer opportunity. And if your volunteer opportunity pertains to what you are applying for, absolutely put that on there. So, and I'll talk about a little bit of that when I present too. So, okay. How long until this recording is on CalTAP archive page? Well, I'll answer that one since I'm on the CalTAP team. So it'll go on our archive page probably in the next, I would say week and a half. It'll only live on our CalTAP page for, I think it's about 6 months to a year, but we will give you guys the link to our YouTube page. It's a Calvet YouTube page, and you just click on videos. It'll also be on there in about a week and a half, and it'll live forever there. That's why we have the YouTube. So yes, that will stay up there. Okay, I think that's all the questions for right now. However, if you guys have any other questions as we go along, put them in the Q&A tab, and Chris can come back on at the end too and answer anything that we're not able to. So, but we will go ahead and move on. I'm going to move just a little bit quickly so that way we can get through all the information and still have you guys out of here as close to 1 o'clock as we can in the next 12, 13 minutes or so. So, okay, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about of employment stuff. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of some of the things that Chris said too, but instead of talking about federal employment, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about state employment. I know a lot about state employment because I work for the state. So once again, my name is Jana, and I'm on the CalTAP team, which is California Transition Assistance Program team. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what we do as a team a little bit later. We're going to go ahead and jump right into just talking a little bit more about the employment aspect. If you guys go to the Calvet website, you just Google Calvet, we're usually the first site that comes up. you'll go to our CalTAP banner, and we're going to be putting a bunch of these links in on how to get to these web pages and websites in the chat function. And then I'll go through it a little bit more when I talk a little bit about what CalTAP does. But once you're on the CalTAP web page, you can click on the employment pathway. And this is going to bring you to a screen that has lots of different modules on there. Lots of great information if you guys have some time to check this website out. You can have information about how to search for jobs. We're going to talk a lot about module number 4, state employment, but there's information for federal employment. A lot of what Chris was saying is on there as well. Interview techniques is a really great module, lots of great information there. So but we're going to go ahead and dive into the state employment side. And this is just a really great snapshot of kind of some projections that the Employment Development Department, or you guys probably have heard of EDD, that acronym. It's something that they put together just to give you a snapshot of some highlights of different job projections. Okay, so when you guys are preparing to apply really for any job, the first thing you want to do is have your resume set up. I know Chris talked a lot about resumes. We're just going to talk a little bit about master versus target resume, make sure everybody understands the difference. If you don't know what the master resume is, basically it's a laundry list of all the different job and volunteer, so paid and unpaid opportunities that you would have in chronological order. This way, when you go to apply for a job, you find a job, it looks really great, and you say to yourself, gosh, I've done this type of work in maybe 3 other positions or volunteer opportunities in the past. So you go to your master resume, which has everything you've done listed in one document, and you pull those 3 positions and you put it onto a document, and that's called your target resume. So it's basically already created because all the information is in your master resume, and you just shift it to create a target resume for that job opportunity. So if, say, for the person that asked about the HOA involvement, if the job you are applying for, it would help that you have that HOA involvement experience, absolutely add that on, because that's going to target the job that you are applying for, which is why it's called a target resume. So if you need more information on that, ask Chris, ask myself. You can ask Cherie about that kind of stuff. We're more than happy to help you. Always match the terminology. So what we mean by that is when you are looking at the duty statement or the job description, taking terminology from there and matching it to your experience that you have and putting that actually in your application or resume. Like Chris was talking about, always have that ready list of references already ready to go, because don't have them ask you for it, just have it in your packet already. And a really great tip on that is to have somebody on there listed as maybe someone who was a supervisor while you were active in the military, because anything you did in the military, they can kind of take what you did and change it into more of a civilian language. So that way the hiring manager or whoever is calling that reference will be able to understand what you did in the military. And then federal resume is always different. We kind of already talked about that. Well, Chris already talked about that, so I'm not going to touch on that too much. And then always find out if a company or department offers any sort of veterans preference or veterans points, anything to get your foot in the door faster for an interview. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about state employment. Working for the state is it's a really great thing. We're the largest employer in California. We have agencies and departments throughout the whole state. So all the way at the tip top in Wairika, all the way down to San Diego County. Anything you can think of, we've got a job opportunity for. If you think of it this way, if you're driving down the street and you are driving in a car that your registration is all up to date, where do you register at? DMV, which is a state department. You're driving down that road and you notice some potholes on the ground. Who's going to fill those? Hopefully Caltrans will come fill that. But as you're driving really fast down the street, you see some red lights in back of you. Gosh, that's probably CHP or the police, State Department. So really there's any kind of job you can think of in the State Department. Stability, it's, I count on the fact that I'm going to work 8 to 5 on most days unless I'm traveling a little bit, but definitely stability. we offer lots of benefits. So we definitely think about retirement at all times. So we've got the pension plan, savings plus plan, all the health, dental, vision, lots of medical stuff. That's always really important to me. I know I have a couple kids, so everyone's always needing to go to the doctor or dentist, something like that. Something that a lot of jobs offer is EAP, so employee assistance programs. And if you haven't heard of this, if you ever have access to it, whether you work for the state or somewhere else, it's really great because it offers a program if you need maybe extra counseling or maybe you need to seek out a lawyer. Typically, it'll offer something at a discount or some free sessions. So it's all anonymous. Your HR never finds out. So if that's something that's offered, definitely look into that if that's needed. The state offers paid trainings. So if you want to further your skills or learn something new, and then everyone's favorite holiday, sick leave, vacation, military leave. Now, with working for the state, when you get hired on, you start earning vacation and sick leave immediately, but you cannot use it the first 6 months that you are employed. So if you have a military service connected disability and you need to seek out treatment, as long as you qualify for it, you can get up to 96 hours that you can use for paid sick leave to get treatment for whatever you need. So, or for that's connected to the service connected disability. If you're in that situation, you have questions on it, you can always call us back and we can walk you through that. Okay, so how to get started. I'm going to kind of run through this kind of quick. If anyone is wanting to apply for the state and you have more questions, please reach out to us. That way we can help you out. But really, you're going to go to jobs.ca.gov. I'm going to show you what that website looks like in just a second here. You fill out a profile. You can apply for veterans preference. You search for any jobs that you're looking for. You do have to take and pass an assessment or exam to get any job with the state or to promote up with the state. And then you can apply for open positions and participate in the hiring interview. Seems pretty easy. So this is how you do it. This is the website I was just talking to you. It's our Cal Careers website. You can even just Google that. As you can see, a couple things are circled in red. So you can see the veterans. If you click on that, lots of really great information in there. And then at the top right, the create account or log on. Once you start putting in all your information, everything gets saved in there to create your profile. So all information would be filled in on this page once you log on. Lots of different tabs on the left-hand side. Some of the most important ones are uploaded documents. So you can put your references, any degrees or certificates, any applications or resumes. You can actually upload right into the system. So that way it's saved. That way you can just attach and as you are, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second, as you are applying. Okay. So there's veterans preference if you're applying for the state. Basically what this does, you just fill out a form and you send it in, it gets attached to your file and it gets you in the door faster for an interview. So you have to take an exam, like I said earlier, to apply with the state. And basically, as long as you pass the exam and you fill out this veterans preference form, you typically can get pulled in the first grouping of interviews. So when a hiring manager goes to pull for interviews for the state, they take the people with the highest grade on their exam. Well, as long as you've passed the exam and you have the veterans preference form filled out, you get to that highest ranking. So if you are applying for the state and have any questions on that, please reach out. That way we can help you out with that. Okay, so when you are searching for job vacancies, you can, as you can see here, you can fill in any of these boxes. You can search for any kind of job you're looking for based on location, salary, work schedule, anything like that. This is what you find, how the jobs are listed out. They have kind of silly names, but the most important things to really pay attention to are that job salary range. That's going to tell you how much you're making. And then the filing deadline, that's where that arrow is right here. If you file or apply past that deadline, then your application will not get looked at. Okay, so once you find a job that you're wanting to look at, you can click on the duty statement, which looks like this. This just shows you, what you're going to be doing daily. This is where you can pull terminology to add to your application or your resume. So that's a really great, this is also a really great place to study for an interview because this is probably where questions are going to come from. Okay, so once you find a job that you want to apply for, you want to obtain eligibility, which means taking an exam. Your exam is really just going to evaluate what you've done in the past, your knowledge, your skills, and your abilities, and then your education and or your experience. Okay, this is just a snapshot to show you that no matter what your degree is, there is an exam or a job position that you can get into. So it doesn't really matter what your education goals are. You can definitely get a job with the state. Okay, usually when you apply for job positions with the state, they're asking for something that's called a statement of qualifications. And basically this is just an extra narrative. It's usually asking you questions about what you've done in the past and how it can relate to the job you're applying for. If you do, the reason why we put this in this presentation is because if you don't fill this out, your application doesn't get looked at. And I know you're already all really great at paying attention to details, so just make sure you are paying attention to this detail. Okay, so prepping for the hiring interview, just a couple quick tips. Make sure you're setting the duty statement or the job announcement, and also review the job or the department website. Because usually you're going to get questions of, why did you apply for the job? And you can say, oh gosh, I looked at your website and I learned, fun fact A, B, and C. Always relate your experience to what you will be doing in the position you'll be hired for, and then make sure you read all application instructions. So we went through a lot. We talked a little bit about resumes, applying for veterans preference, talked a little bit about exams for the state, applying for jobs, and then the hiring interview tips. These are all some really great resources. How to write a federal resume, Career One Stop is a great website. You can, as you can see just in the search engine, there's lots of great things you can find there. Military Skills Translator, that's a really great website as well. And then if you have questions about the VMET, great website right there. Okay, this is my information. It's going to be in the last slide. I know we're kind of running out of time. It's 1 o'clock. I'm just going to briefly go over what CalTAP is, take just a couple minutes. And then if there are any other questions, we'll be able to go over them. So we should have you guys done in the next, I would say 5 to 6 minutes if you guys can hang out with us just a little bit longer. Okay, so I've been mentioning CalTAP a couple times here as I've been speaking, and what we are, and I don't read my slides verbatim, but we are designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras to their earned federal and state benefits. I like to read that verbatim because that is exactly what we're here to do. And not only are we going to do that right now, but we are going to be here with you for the long haul. So we know that the benefits and the resources that you might need today are going to be different from what you're going to need in 2 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. So we're going to make sure that we are providing that continuous support and assistance. And one way we do that is by putting a lot of information right on our website. We have it broken up into 5 pathways: core curriculum, which covers a lot of your basic benefits while living here in California; education, employment, entrepreneurship. Those are self-explanatory, all the information you need to know there. And then service providers. So this is going to talk a lot about how our service providers can connect with our veterans while they're out in the community. Okay, our veterans resource book, you guys, this is like gold. If you guys have never seen this before, we're going to probably put a link to this in the chat. And then also it's right on our website. If you just Google Calvet and you scroll all the way down on our website, there's a link to it. Or you can call us and we can mail you one for free. This book has all of your benefits and resources listed on there. All the information is also right on our website too. And this is how you can find us. Just Google Calvet. This is what our website looks like. I've got lots of things circled and underlined here. Find a service provider, find a CVSO, and then down there at the bottom with the arrow, find a local CVSO. When I say CVSO, I mean County Veteran Service Officer or office. Sorry about that. That's going to be a place where you can get lots and lots of questions answered, lots of great benefits, lots of resources. I can tell you all about it later if you have more questions, but one main thing on this page is the CalTAP banner right under that laptop. That's going to get you to our website, or I'm sorry, our web page. You probably saw this a little earlier when we went through the employment pathway, but this is going to show you where all of our benefits are. All the pathways are listed here. We clicked on the employment one earlier, and I gave you all of the tips on how to apply for a state. We're going to click on core curriculum. This is going to be where all of your benefits are listed. It's right in module number 5, California benefits. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. We've got the college tuition fee waiver. This is the benefit that we get the most questions about. If you have a dependent that's wanting to go to school, we've got 4 plans, plan A, B, C, and D. Most people qualify for either plan A or plan B. You just have to have a service-connected disability rating established, 0 to 100. And then typically your dependent could qualify to go to a community college, state school, or UC with the tuition and the fees covered. If you want to get veteran listed on your driver's license, that's a really great benefit to have. You don't have to carry your 214 around. We can get you signed up for that. It's right through the DMV. There's no fees for it anymore. There's a vehicle registration fee waiver that you can qualify for. If you have questions on that, reach out to us. That way we can help you out. If you like outdoors, we can get you reduced fishing and hunting licenses and then state park passes at a really great rate or completely free. Lots of tax programs. So contact us if you guys have questions on that. These are all the different divisions at CalVet. I'm in vet services. We handle lots and lots of things and have 2 really great divisions under us, women's veterans and then the minority veterans divisions. You can go right to our website. If you click on those web pages, you can put your email address in and then you can get emails on what's happening out in the community. We also offer the CalVet home loan, different than the VA home loan. Call us if you have questions. If you are looking to buy a home in the future, right now, I highly suggest that you look into it. And then probably stuff you're not really planning on right now, but for the future, we offer homes for long-term care. And then we also have cemeteries. So never too late to start planning for that stuff. If you have questions, reach out. Okay, lots of ways to continue to communicate with CalVet. We ask that you send us an email with your non-DoD email address, of course. Obviously, you're probably, if you're going to school, you're probably not in the military anymore, but send it to CalTAP at calvet.ca.gov. That way we can keep in contact with you. Or you can sign up for My CalVet. You just go to our website, any page on the website, you can sign up for My CalVet. This is what it looks like. Basically, it tailors our website to meet your needs and to be able to have you search for things easier. You can search for us on social medias. We've got all of our QR codes here, Facebook and Instagram. And then we have a YouTube channel. So like I was saying earlier, this webinar is recorded. We put everything on our website and then we also put everything on YouTube and that's where it lives forever. This is our survey that we have right there. There's a QR code. You're going to get an email that pops up for it right after this webinar as well. If you can please take the time to fill that out, we'd really appreciate that. We talked about the My CalVet. If you sign up for My CalVet, you guys are going to get our monthly newsletter emailed to you. Just gives lots of information on the different webinars that we have every month. Our Deputy Secretary, Keith Boylan, he sends out a message on what's happening in the community. Really great information. If you guys have not been to va.gov, I highly suggest you go to that website. Lots of great stuff. It's basically the hub of where you need to keep all your information, where you can find a lot of things and also keep in touch with your healthcare providers. Okay, like I said, that's my contact info. You're going to see it in just a couple minutes. We have local interagency network coordinators. This is Kevin. He's the one for the whole Bay Area. If you guys need anything, it's kind of like another version of the VRC. So they have lots of really great information. He can link you to basically any resource that you need. Kevin is actually not here right now because he is at a disaster relief center or a DRC trying to help out in the community. But this is his information. Everyone that spoke today, this is all of our contact information. So I'm going to turn things over to, oh, actually, I'm going to pull up our questions and answers, question and answer tab. Let's see here. Is the Wounded Warriors sick leave only for the state? Let's see here. You know,
here. For the Wounded Warriors Transitional, hello everyone, Cherie over here. Transitional Leave Act is observed by the state of California. However, there is also the Wounded Warriors Federal Leave Act, which has specific requirements as well. And I believe that's applicable for federal jobs, but I just was researching this while Jana was so wonderful in presenting it. But there is another one, but the specific one that Jana presented on, the Wounded Warriors Transitional Leave Act, is something specifically applied for by or observed by California. And I believe that might be all our questions for right now. Anything else
Anybody?
Yeah, and somebody just commented that CalTAP does pay attention. We really do pay attention to the surveys. So, you know, we want to know how we're doing and try to make these webinars really great. I'm so sorry we went over time, but gosh, this has been such really great information. Okay, just a couple more slides. Just want to let you guys know we've got lots of upcoming webinars, a couple left in April, a bunch in May. Amazing topics, you guys. Come check them out. You sign up the same way you did on Eventbrite, all free. You'll get the information the day before and the morning of. Surveys here, but you'll get it right after the webinar anyway. And once again, just thank you for being here, and thank you to Chris for such great information earlier. Thank you to Skyline too for being so involved, and Bridget and Kathleen, thank you guys as well. So if anybody has any other questions, we'll be on for a couple more minutes, but everybody have a really great day.